It's that time again where we honor some patrons for the month of June. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 14 of Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host, Jose Tawada. And yes, it is our Patron of the Month episode where our patrons can submit topics for us to discuss here on the podcast. And oddly enough, two of our patrons submitted the same theme or the same topic, and that was regarding The Undertaker. And of course, I got to give credit to Michael Keys and Zachery Kershner, both who suggested that it's got to be something with The Undertaker, especially with The Last Ride wrapping up this past week, which we do get into. So I was thinking, what can we do with The Undertaker to kind of continue on that trend there? And so I said, you know what, let's do another rankings, because that's something that we got very comfortable with in a good way. And we decided to rank our top 5 moments or matches of The Undertaker of his past 30 years in the WWE. And so many, a lot of fun moments, a lot of fun trip down memory lane. And yes, we do discuss that big news that came out of The Last Ride in terms of his retirement, in terms of his career. So we're going to share our thoughts as well. Andrew Wolfwoman, the usual, is back. And RJ Stacy is back as well, which is great because, he was with me when we did After the Count many moons ago. So it's nice to see him back here on a regular basis here on the podcast. So that being said, let's get right into it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Taker's legacy. All right, everybody, welcome to the discussion. Wolf, as always, is here. RJ, who's starting to become a regular, which should be a norm. Let's face it, RJ and I, we go way back with this podcasting days. It's totally cool. It's great that RJ's up here more frequently, and as he gets to know Wolf, I pray that they don't roast me at the same time. You heard in the intro, the discussion today is all about The Undertaker, the great dead man, the living legend himself, a man who for 30 years has blessed a lot of moments for everybody, old, young, new, whatever it is. Takers provide a lot of special memories, a lot of special moments for so many generations. And for what it appears to be from this past Sunday, as he said it himself, the cowboy rides off for the last time. Of course, with Taker, you never say never at this point. But with the suggestion of Michael Keys and Zachery Kershner, we are going to list our top 5 Undertaker moments or matches. And with 30 years of content, yes, there is going to be an insane amount of stuff here. So as you can see here, it's just about to illustrate. Bam, here is our list. Should have pointed the other way. Here's our list for everybody. We're going to be going in order, myself, RJ, and Wolf. Listing going from number 5 to number 1. Of course, this may not be necessarily a ranked system. It could be just our 5 favorite moments, or for some it may be a ranked moments. You don't know. We'll see how that plays out. That did not grammatically make sense. Gentlemen, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. Away we go. So my number 5, I'm going to start off in 2005 at the height of what was an insane rivalry, a very, very good rivalry between Randy Orton, and that was Undertaker's return at Survivor Series, when Orton became the last man standing of the traditional Survivor Series match, and then the Druids brought out the casket that Orton set on fire the pay-per-view before at No Mercy, reminiscences of that Royal Rumble moment from 1998 with Kane. Randy Orton thought he killed the dead man, and nope, the dead rose again for the millionth time by that point. Epic moment. The Randy Orton face has provided so many memes. That moment itself has provided a lot of memes for many fans, even like outside of wrestling, just to pick and then choose and go with it. So I start off there because it's, when it comes to the world of memes, for somehow that's one of the more recognizable ones of The Undertaker and Randy Orton without the context needed, but still a great moment. Taker is always a badass when he comes out of a flaming coffin. So that's going to be my opening here. Let's jump down to RJ for his number 5.
My number 5. All right. So I'm going to go back to No Way Out in 2006 with The Undertaker versus Kurt Angle. This is a match that I thought after the fact could have easily main evented WrestleMania that year. This might be Taker's best, straight up singles match ever. One of them, in my opinion. Angle is an amazing performer as well, and this is just probably my favorite straight up one-on-one Taker match. And I think that this easily could have main evented WrestleMania that year. And all the reversals in this match, and Taker showing his technicality as well as his well-known brawler side, and then obviously credit to Angle bringing that side out of him. It's just an incredible match and one of my favorite Taker matches ever.
Can I be honest and say that I've never seen it?
Well, you should.
I know. I know somehow, and that was an era where I was really watching it too, but I've never seen it.
It's
It's
really
pretty
good.
sad. Of course, for those just for context, what ended up happening at WrestleMania was Mark Henry and the Undertaker in the casket match, and then Kurt Angle being part of that triple threat with Orton and Rey Mysterio, which Rey Mysterio had his big moment. I agree, and they set it up nicely at the Royal Rumble the month before for Taker and Angle, and well, at least we got it. But yeah, maybe the wrong show.
Don't get me
Well,
wrong, like the Rey Mysterio moment was amazing. Like
oh,
that
of
that
course.
was also an incredible main event. But Taker versus Angle in general could have just been a match that happened on WrestleMania. But overall, I'm happy we got both these matches, and you should really go watch that No Way Out
I
match.
know. I'm sorry. I'll probably watch it when we finish filming or in a few days. I don't know. I'll probably watch on the award-winning WWE Network, free for new subscribers, first month free. Wolf.
So, as a rather new wrestling fan of like the last 5 years, I didn't go too far deep for my favorite Taker moments because I think they were more fun if I actually saw them. So, my number 5 is actually Battleground 2015, Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. When it looks like a squash match, and we think, oh, Lesnar's going to get the belt back. That's fantastic. Gong! What's going on here? Oh my God! Oh my God! It's him! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! And it was one of those out of the nowhere moments. Like I had read about it before it happened because I watched it back like the next day, but my buddy didn't know what happened. So I filmed him as the gong went off, and he's holding my cat, and he's like. So just for that face that I saw, that was so worth it. And like everyone knows what the gong is. Like we've heard it through history as a surprise moment. That's just one of the ones that stand out the most for me.
RJ, I'm going to jump to you next because your number 4 ties into that. So if you want to go with your number 4.
Yeah, for sure. I was just about to mention mine ties right into that. So we'll start about a little bit before that when I'm going to go with the series of matches between the Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. We'll start with where the streak ending and Lesnar. How surprised were you guys when that happened to begin with? Like, did you ever think that there was a possibility that Taker was ever going to lose the streak to begin with? And would it ever be to Brock Lesnar? How did you guys think that? Like that just shocked me.
That moment for me, I'm going to start off. That moment was, I think it was like the first time in WWE in all the years I've been watching up until then that were like, it felt like my heart stopped. It sounds dramatic. It sounds like over the top, but you freeze, you froze. Everybody froze when that moment happened. And like, I always wondered if the streak would ever come to an end. With me, my thought was like, if it either he retires it with it perfect and he ends it at WrestleMania, or when he does end a streak, that's it, he steps away. And so when that moment happened, obviously that's your first thought. It's like, wait, is this where we say goodbye? Because of the way he exited, of course, and you see the big graphic 21-1 and you're freaking out. I remember like I was just kind of sitting down. I froze again. Like I said, I was literally frozen with like a small tear running down my eye because you're like, that actually happened. And I like one friend started to laugh away. He's like, no, it didn't happen. And then another friend was like, like everybody, we're all just like slouched on the couch and then boom, shot right up when that happened. So it's still one of those big surreal moments, I guess, that is still too good to be true, but it is what it is. Wolf, did you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I always thought it would end. I didn't necessarily think it would be Brock Lesnar. I mean, now, when I say I started watching regularly in like 2015, I watched WrestleMania like every year from 2012 before that. And then I finally decided to start watching Monday Night Raw. But we went to Buffalo Wild Wings for WrestleMania in 2014. Me, my friend, and another guy in my dorm. And we watched it there. And I didn't know too much about WWE. I was rooting for Dave Bautista that night simply because he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's how little I knew. But I knew enough to know that The Undertaker never loses at WrestleMania. So, like, with what little wrestling knowledge I had at that time, that still hit me. And I was like, wait, what? So, yeah, I definitely saw it as a shock. I knew he'd lose the streak someday, just maybe not necessarily to Brock Lesnar.
It's funny. I also remember from that night that my dad was like, oh, guys, it's not a big deal. It's all fake. Who cares? And I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, you just don't understand what we just saw. Like,
You
we
know,
saw,
Law
like,
and Order's fake too, right?
sorry.
You know, Law and Order's fake too, right?
Yeah.
Nobody told me it was, but like it just, but yeah, like I remember, like my dad's like, "Oh, Jose, relax, just keep watching." I'm like, you just don't understand because yeah, like you both said, it was just one of those moments where you're like, he's never going to lose, and
Yeah.
that
And then
moment,
he
do you
finally
want to?
loses.
Yeah,
And then he finally loses to Lesnar, and then that's where it ties into what Wolf's number 5 was, and then he makes that big comeback at Battleground after Lesnar, trying to get the title back from Seth, and then they go on and have a series of 2 matches that I thought were both much better than the WrestleMania match. The WrestleMania match was very shocking, but I think Taker really wanted to come back and show that match wasn't really how he wanted to end it because it wasn't the greatest match. He kind of got concussed halfway through it.
Yeah.
And it just ended kind of sloppy and ugly. So I think he wanted to show that he could do it. And then that Hell in a Cell match was really good. And then that other match that they had at SummerSlam was also really good, where he kind of was passing out but tapping out, or he gave him the finger. Yeah, that's what it was. And it just showed that Taker could still put on a match at that point. Although I do think that was probably his last great match, other than maybe recently, cinematically. That was maybe his last great series of matches. Was that last match with Lesnar? So that's my number 4.
solid stuff. Wolf, let's go to you for number 4.
My number 4. Okay, so kind of goes to the end of what RJ was saying. Like, they had the match at Hell in a Cell, and for whatever reason, the Wyatt family just straight up kidnapped him. I'm like, oh, that's a thing that happens. All right.
Mhm.
I'm a little new to this, so okay, I'll just go with it. These Swamp Hillbillies are taking a person and no one's stopping them. All right. And that's when I was like starting to really get into Monday Night Raw and watching every week and making it appointment viewing. And I was like, wow, maybe Taker's gone or whatever. Like, this could be it. And again, I was really young and didn't know much better, didn't know about storylines and paying things off. So it was a pre-taped Raw in London where Bray Wyatt said, "I vanquished Kane and the Undertaker." And I was like, "Oh, well, now I'm bummed out." And then gong, "Oh, hey, they're back! Yay! Yay! They're back!" So my number 4 is that return, because in my childlike sense of actually buying into kayfabe or thinking Taker was done, I'm like, yay! They're okay! Even though how objectively terrible that segment was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year was that? Was that the 25th anniversary of the Undertaker's debut? Right? Yeah, there we go. That's what I was trying to figure. When was that moment? But yeah, I know
I do remember they had trouble. Him and Kane had trouble getting Braun Strowman over the top rope. They were trying to clear the ring and they tried throwing Braun. This is when Braun Strowman was the big muscly guy, in the Wyatt family, and they tried shoving him out and they're just like, "Oh, we can't get him." They just kind of tip him over a little bit, and he falls on his feet. He's like, "Yeah, we got you." So yeah, that's my number 4.
good stuff. For my number 4, I'm gonna take it back to the year that I brought up earlier, 1998 and WrestleMania 14. Not necessarily because of the match with Kane. Obviously, it was a big anticipated matchup between Kane and the Undertaker, with that rivalry going on, which is one that RG is going to touch up on a little bit later. But it's the entrance itself that was just so. It's to me, which is one of the more majestic things, at least I've seen as a kid, before his other similar type entrance years later. But it's such a moment that continues to be replayed. O Fortuna being played with the Druids coming out one by one, JR really selling it on the call, the creatures of the night milking it, and then the thunder and the crowd is going wild. And then as soon as Taker comes out, to see him go in between the Druids holding up the torches, and the camera panning down to Taker itself as he's walking down the aisle to the ring was just such an epic moment. It's just one of those moments that screams Undertaker, and especially of all stages, on a stage where he dominated the most, WrestleMania, is just damn, this is just such good quality content for this man. And I think at that point, right, he was already popular, just ahead of time. The year before, he won the WWF title against Psycho Sid at WrestleMania 13, but this is where like Taker's popularity just continued to grow more and more. And in the Attitude Era, in that era, it just felt more appreciative, more enticing. At least up until that point. Like, you know, this screams Undertaker. So that to me was like epic, just epic of all proportions.
I just want to say something on that. That's something you could always take away from Undertaker too is his entrances. Like his long, you know, his amazing entrances. You know, he's done 30 years of that. The mind games and his whole mystique in his entrances. It's just amazing, especially that one, obviously.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I said, I'm going to bring up another big entrance from Taker later on, but it was certainly special. And it's still, you know, when you're going through like nearly every year of WrestleMania, like when the show starts and you get the intro package showing all the past memories, that is still one that still goes into the highlight package, the introduction, you know, the legacy, the prestige of WrestleMania. What is one of the first moments that is normally shown for the most part? It's that entrance from WrestleMania 14. So that's how big of an impact that entrance had. Wolf, let's jump right back to you for your number 3.
Okay, for this one, it kind of it's a little higher on this list because I was actually there for it, which I think Jose will give one later for the same reason. But it was Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns in the main event of Monday Night Raw right before WrestleMania 33. And I was there in the crowd in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn when all of a sudden, gong, lights go out, we all cheer, and lights come back on. There he is. I get to see him for the first time. I'm so very happy. I'm excited. Like, oh my God, this is like that time I found a Charizard card before I lost it. And, he even had like those veteran instincts. Like he clears the ring of Braun Strowman, and then he realizes he turned his back on Roman Reigns. He's like, no. So he's like, I know the spear's coming, damn it. So then he turns back around and he gets the spear, but then he sits up and sells it, and we get like the nice purple lighting to take out the show. So it's kind of a standard moment, and like Taker just appears and disappears or whatever, but it holds significance because that was like the first moment I actually got to take in Taker in person.
I've never had that moment, so I mean, I'm sure I would have one of those too. I've never seen Taker in person. Every time I've never ever seen it, so I would be the same way. I've never had the luxury.
Oh man, I was gonna ask you, Arjun, like, because I mean, like I said, I'm gonna talk about my moment in a bit, but I was wondering, like, wait, I don't think RJ ever has, and it sucks.
Oh, buddy.
Oh my goodness. So the good thing is, RJ, is that now you're going to be saving up your money with some of us here that appeared on the podcast, and I guess we'll see you in LA for next year. So have fun then, buddy.
Way to put him on the spot on live.
I hope he comes. I mean, I hope he's there.
Well, that's what I mean. Given the circumstances in the last week and a half, I'm going to assume yes, that he's there. So, see you in the hotel room. Oh God, that sounded weird. I'm so sorry. Let's move on. I am terribly sorry. RJ, can we go to your number 3?
We're in multiple rooms.
RJ, go to your number 3. Go to
my number 3. All right, so we're gonna kick it even farther back. My oldest moment back, Bad Blood, the classic HBK versus Taker match. Obviously, we'll start with that. It was an incredible match, but the moment I want to talk about is after the match, and that's gotta be Kane. Obviously, we're leading up to this match. We're trying to we found out that, you know, Undertaker's got this brother, and the whole, you know, the house getting, you know, on fire and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, this big red machine comes out at the Hell in a Cell match, and here comes JR, who can just sell anything. That's gotta be Kane, and he's the size of the Undertaker.
Actually,
they're both
Vince McMahon. It's like
huge.
Vince said that line.
Oh yeah, that is Vince.
Said the line, and then JR just ate it.
And then yeah.
Way to pull the rug from underneath him.
Sorry, I just want to be clear.
Anyway.
Actually, Frankenstein's the scientist, not the monster.
They're both great. Actually, Vince was really good on commentary. You know, by the way, if we're gonna kick it back that far, Vince was actually pretty good on commentary. But there's Kane, big man, and then it just, you know, it starts this whole. It creates a new star to begin with in Kane, and then it adds another layer to Undertaker's character, and they go on and have a feud, and it was just an amazing moment to see Kane come out of nowhere. And I had that on VHS. I was telling that to Jose earlier today, is that I had that on VHS, like one of my 3 wrestling videotapes, and I watched that maybe like 3 nights a week, just bad blood all the time. So I've seen that match a million times. I've seen Kane's debut a million times, and it's just such a good moment for my young childhood to keep reliving that. So that's my number 3. And you know what? Now that I'm at number 3, I'm starting to think I might have put it a little low for me because of my childhood memories. But we're sticking at number 3 for now. That's got to be Kane debuting after the Undertaker's match with HBK.
It's funny because, like, I mean, everybody remembers that moment when Kane debuted, but I feel like it's somewhat now under the rug that, like, that was still an amazing. It was the first ever Hell in a Cell, and it was just an incredible match, just in general, just to see what you do when you put 2 people inside a cage and say, "Okay, go have fun." And
it's a 5-star match.
It's brand new to everybody. You're like, okay, what could they possibly be doing? And you see Sean flying out of the cell, Sean like Taker getting bloodied up, or it's not Taker, Sean getting bloodied up. It's just dramatic all around. Great stuff. My number 3, I'm going to go behind the curtain, and I'm going to go to a moment after Raw went off the air. I forget the year, but this was, when Taker was still in his badass mode. I believe it was 2000. I think it was 2003 because this was just before the Dead Man made a comeback. It was a moment after Raw. Booker T and Goldust in the ring, and Booker T is trying to convince Taker to do a spin-a-Rooney. And for some reason, to me, that's just one of the funniest moments because, as most people know, I'm a big person of, like, when kayfabe is out of our reach. And so with The Undertaker, right, this is like a behind-the-scenes dude. Let's see how he is, like, off camera. And, the American Badass kind of gave us, like, that real Mark Calloway in a sense. But, Taker is still being presented as a badass regardless. And so it's like, wait, is Taker really going to do a spin-a-Rooney? And the fact that Vince McMahon came out to do one in the ring and to tell Taker, okay, you better do one, or like I'm gonna like kick your ass or something. Everybody's doing it, and Taker just like, forget this, I'm out of here. Teasing the whole crowd. I think the crowd stayed like for maybe about a half hour to see if Taker was gonna spin in the damn ring. He never did. He gets on his bike and rides off. But it's like a good, fun, lighthearted moment for me. And I'm like, okay, Taker is human. Taker is still human, and like it just shows like no matter what you can do, you can never get him to crack. You can never get him to do something silly. He will always be like that big, badass, like dead face guy, and that will like kick your ass if you like do something wrong. So I thought that was really great. Let's go back to RJ for number 2. Yeah, wow, number 2 already. Yeah,
number 2. Okay, and I just want to touch on what you just said. It's nice to see Taker show the occasional comedic side when he was the American Badass with the spinner-Rooney, because you never really see that from Taker.
No.
Back onto what I just said, or what you just said, on to me. I also am a huge fan of the American Badass, so we're going right to his debut at Judgment Day. We got the Judgment Day is coming. The Judgment Day is here, and then here comes rocking out to Limp Bizkit, the motorcycle Undertaker in the middle of a Triple H versus The Rock match. In the middle of it's an Iron Man match, and they're tied, and Triple H. And here comes, McMahon's, here comes DX trying to screw The Rock out of this. And then here comes Taker, who is now the American Badass on his motorcycle. And he comes and cleans some house. And Shawn Michaels, who's the guest ref, ends up disqualifying the Undertaker with like a second left to give Triple H the championship. So it's a whole, storyline there. But I just love the American Badass. I think it's, it's my personal favorite Taker gimmick. I know I'm alone in that a lot because the Dead Man gimmick's so iconic, but I love that Taker was able to switch it up and do the American Badass. So the debut, and then the next night on Raw, even when he comes out again to the Raw crowd during another Triple H and Rock match, and the crowd's just absolutely eating it up and loving it. It's just the crowd reaction's amazing. So the debut and then the entire American Badass gimmick is a top 2 Undertaker moment for me.
Yeah, like the long blue jean jacket, which is like surprisingly long, but still really good. And I remember he was saying, like, especially in his documentary in the last word, that he was nervous to make the transition because we all saw him as this guy from the dead, and he knew he said himself he knew he had to adapt to the times. He knew he had to change something up to continue to be with the trend of an evolving WWF essentially, and it paid off.
Well, when you're a wrestler for 30 years, right, you got to have at least some sort of gimmick change in there. So the fact that he's been able to reinvent himself over these years to the American Badass and then to Big Evil again, which is a slight change on that gimmick, he's just his character work's just been incredible for his entire career. It's just amazing.
And I think another example to that, and obviously I know Wolf is going to back me up here, but it's Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is another example of that person who's evolved in time. Like he's WCW days, Lionheart or ECW Lionheart and all that. Then he gets to like, the Y2J moment, and then he evolves to like the crazy sadistic person with Steph, and then the list, blah, blah, blah. There's so many different gimmicks he can go on with Chris Jericho. And Undertaker went the same route. He's like, okay, I got to mix it up. I got to keep this crowd fresh. I got to keep this crowd alive. Taker did that with the American Badass and even involved that to Big Evil, like you said, and all that. So I like that. Wolf, you're number 2.
My number 2 is like as recent as it can get, really. It's the Boneyard match. Well, I had a lot of mixed thoughts going in, and I made that very clear on the first time I appeared on this podcast, because I actually thought a Boneyard match would mean like a ring made out of bones that you buy at Party City or whatever.
Honestly, with the route that WWE goes, it's not a bad thought at that rate.
Yeah,
there's a possibility. There's a real possibility.
But anyway, but what we got was surprisingly like deep and full. Like we got a mix of the Dead Man and Mark Calloway and the American Badass. And I think the moment that really just hooked me was the opening strains of Now That We're Dead by Metallica. Like, oh, this is a new Taker. Like, this is like all the Takers at one. You know what? If this is the last time I see him, so be it. This is a fitting end. I mean, it's not a wrestling match. It hides some of his vulnerabilities now at his age, but it's still cinematic. It showcases everything that we loved about Taker. AJ Styles makes him look good. Frankly, this is kind of what the Matt Hardy version of The Undertaker should be. And if this is the way that we're going to highlight his exit from the wrestling world, then so be it. I'm happy because he actually gets to ride off into, well, not the sunset because it was nighttime, but I guess moonlight. And like that shot of him just going away on the bike, that's the perfect finale for him.
Oh, man.
And he looked good on the way out, which is what I think you wanted.
Yeah. He like, again, to back you up again, Wolf, like, he was saying in the last right, like everybody was wondering what that holy trinity that he brought up in the promos and the lead up to that match. And everybody's like, are we going to get another person? Is it Kane, Taker? A lot of people start to overanalyze it, of course.
Paul Bearer's ghost.
Exactly. I mean, that was literally one of the options. It ended up being, the American Badass, the Dead Man, and Mark Calloway. And I'm like, perfect. And like you said, if that was his finale, which it looks like it was, and that's something we'll talk later on in the podcast, what a way to go. And what a perfect way. He described there, he brought out the Badass. He brought out his Dead Man moment when he popped up from behind the tractor, and then Mark Calloway when he brought up his wife, and I'm like,
I ain't gonna bury you, son.
Boom, into the grave he goes. My number 2 moment. I'm gonna jump to my number 2, and like I said earlier, it was similar to WrestleMania 14, and it's WrestleMania 20, the return of the Dead Man. And when I became a fan in 2001, right, or 2002-ish, 2001, I was introduced. I saw Taker as the American Badass. I mean, I saw old clips of Taker. My buddy had WrestleMania 15 on VHS with the Ministry of Darkness, and then he had the Royal Rumble 1997 on VHS, and I've seen the Dead Man Taker, and I'm like, oh, that's a really cool theme. This is like a really creepy dude, right? And I was 10, and I'm again like, when you see the mind games that are being played, which I think is some of the best mind game work that he's had in all his career. The lead up to that matchup with Kane was just unreal. Like, like the burning symbols on the Raw Titantron, the coffin, the shaking ring, everything was so great. And I was scared to living hell. I was so terrified as a kid. The night of WrestleMania 20, a friend of mine who I haven't seen in years, or a friend of mine at the time, his father bought WrestleMania 20, so I was asleep over at his place, and I'm watching it. God, this is embarrassing. When we got to that match, I was so scared. I looked at her and I'm like, dude, there's a picture of Jesus on the wall. I don't think we should be watching this. And we skipped the whole match.
Man.
So I skipped the entrance. I skipped Paul Bearer's return.
No.
So we're watching something. I was like SpongeBob or something. I'm like, okay, go back. Where are they right now? And I see Paul Bearer walking with the Druids. I'm like, oh my sweet Jesus, it's hell. And we switch right back. And then as we're waiting, I'm like, okay, like, is it over? Like, okay, go back to it. And Taker's coming out. He's about to walk under the torches, and I'm like, switch it again. And we skipped the whole match. We didn't even see the full match. That was how scared I was of The Undertaker when he returned in 2004. And I'm like, wait, this guy got buried alive. And of course, young little me still didn't know the difference between
Oh,
kayfabe
yeah.
and non-kayfabe, and I'm like, he really got buried alive. He
Mhm.
really rose from the grave. He really rose from the dead. What the hell is this? What the hell is WWE doing? And I was so scared tremendously, but and replaying, watching it back now as an adult, I'm like, this is again one of the top 10 WrestleMania entrances of all time, top 5 maybe. It's just so good to see it again and to see Paul Bearer return and rest his soul. He was like his when as he's coming up with the Druids and everything, Kane selling it, you're not real, and just great all around. But yes, I will never forgive 10-year-old Jose to tell my friend to switch the channel because there was a big photo of Jesus in his living room. Just
Man, I'm with you, man. I was terrified as a naive young kid. I didn't think Undertaker was going to be at WrestleMania. I didn't think he was going to be at that. I didn't think he was going to show up. I'm like, oh, this is just mind games. Like Kane's all confident, like he's not coming in. I'm Kane. He's not coming. He's not showing up. And then he's just like a little baby. He's like,
yeah,
it is him. And
Of
I'm
course.
like, oh my God, I'm like a child. If big old red machine Kane is terrified, how scared should I be? So I'm just like kidding myself. Like I'm so scared. and then it ends up being a pretty solid match. I actually thought Kane got a little more offense, and I thought he was gonna get squashed. Like I thought Undertaker was just gonna come and like wreck him. I thought Kane was just gonna be like frozen shut, and Taker was just gonna just destroy him. But I mean, he really kind of ends up doing it anyway. But I just wanted to get that in there too. That I'm totally with you. Do not be ashamed that you were scared of the Undertaker that night because I was terrified.
I was picked on for a week because I told my buddy, don't tell anybody at school. And the whole week, did you really turn off the Taker match because there was a photo of Jesus? And I'm like, all right, I deserve it. I mean, as a kid, I'm like, no, it's not true. I saw the whole thing. I
didn't turn it off. I just got like,
I was terrible.
Startled. I might have had a nightmare.
And that night, like after, like, because it was the March break, right? WrestleMania was on March 14th that year, and March break was starting. I could not sleep because I was legitimately scared the Taker was gonna pop out. Like in my friend's room, I'm like, oh my God, he's coming.
What?
I don't know. I was a scared 10-year-old boy. Leave me alone, all right? Let's jump to our number ones, and we'll like Arjun had been going off, so Wolf, take it away for your number one.
Okay, so my number one is also extremely recent. It's his match versus Bill Goldberg at Super Show. Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to see how he'd react.
For those that are watching on YouTube, let me bring out the full screen and just show you like this is what I look at. But back to the graphic.
No, that was the perfect train wreck of awful. So my favorite match, my favorite Taker moment is with my second favorite wrestler of all time, CM Punk. Basically, the entire feud leading up to WrestleMania 29, I want to say 29? Yeah. I mean, the way that Punk just kind of targeted Taker with the intent of breaking his streak was nothing new, but he got a little more psychological and played around and kind of teased the kayfabe more than most people did. Like, ooh, dead man, I have your urn! And I think one of the moments that kind of borderline on disrespectful but was effective is Paul Heyman coming out as Paul Bearer, which, again, not something they cleared with Paul Bearer's family.
No.
But it definitely made me cheer for The Undertaker. And that's considering that I'm a CM Punk guy. So I just found that really effective heel work on Punk's part. But Undertaker coming in with the attitude of, yeah, don't you fucking dare. And he just kind of schools him during the match. And there's the moment where Punk thinks that he has him won. Like he's gone off. He's done he's done old school on the ropes. He's done the dive from the table. He's 1, 2, and then he just sits up in Punk's head, like arms. And Punk's just like,
yeah.
Like that face alone, like sells CM Punk, oh no, I screwed up. So a really effective feud, probably one of Taker's last great matches.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go with that as my number one.
And just to follow up on that, I mean, like the whole Paul Bear situation. I mean, yeah, weirdly, it just, I don't know, it feels like I don't want to say this. Like the timing of his death was just so was weird because they were able to go with it, and knowing how personal Punk was already getting, the fact that happened, it's yeah. I mean, like they didn't give his sons, they didn't give WWE didn't give their sons the heads up of like, like the ashes being poured out of the urn.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman dressing up as Paul Bearer, and I think what hit me the hardest was when Taker's in the ring, like, paying tribute to Paul Bearer, and then Punk's music hit. Like the camera angle was just perfect. Like Taker down on one knee and looking at the Titantron with Paul Bearer's in memoriam, and then Punk's entrance hit, and you're like,
I'm
Oh.
sorry for your loss
at
of your
WrestleMania.
streak at WrestleMania. I'm like, oh, you dick.
And I'm like, I mean, like there are times when I don't personally like the line being crossed, and that was definitely one of those times where I'm like, I don't know if I enjoy this or not because of how personal it got because of the death. It was just it sucked to lose Paul Bearer for sure, but damn.
And
RJ,
I do want to touch on this as well.
go, please. Sorry.
It is an amazing match to begin with, and they do have a really nice false finish in it as well, where he hits him with the urn, and I'm like, oh man, like Punk, like are they actually gonna give it to Punk right now? Like, is Punk actually gonna win after this? And then I pose this question: knowing how it ends the next year, should Punk have won that match?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's hard to say because he ended up leaving that year, right? Or sorry, just like
He leaves right after the Royal Rumble. Before
right after. So yeah, just like he leaves 9 months later, 10 months later. It's like, and it's, I think hindsight's 2020 because let's say Punk does beat him,
I think
and
Punk
then
stays.
you think Punk would have stayed?
If they gave him that big win at WrestleMania, I think he would have stayed. I think
they would have.
I can't speak to what Phil Brooks' mindset is because if you've listened to everything he said over the past 2 years, there were so many factors. But I feel like him beating the Undertaker at WrestleMania would have given him at least a feeling that the company had some faith in him, and he probably would have overlooked some of the other stuff and stayed. And who knows? We might be looking at Universal Champion CM Punk right now.
It's possible.
It's very true. And I think I can't remember. I feel like Punk has commented on if he wanted the honor of breaking the streak, and I want to say no, he didn't. But I could also be very wrong. I can't remember if Punk ever.
I know Heyman pitched for it. Heyman
to end the streak.
Very hard for Punk to be the one to break the streak, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like if Taker was willing for something like Orton at WrestleMania 21 to do it, I don't know if Punk would have been up there, but it's a good point. It makes, again, hindsight's 2020 moving forward, and you'll never know. But RJ, let's go down to you.
All right, so my my last moment here is probably one of my, if not my favorite, Raw childhood match ever, and it's kicking it back to American Badass in 2002 on Raw. Jeff Hardy challenges him in a ladder match for the Undisputed Championship that Taker's holding. And I know this is an Undertaker show, but he was doing such amazing heel work at that time, and I wanted Jeff Hardy to win that match so badly, and he didn't, obviously. And I'm like, oh, screw you, Taker! Like at the end, like you're a dick. Like how could Jeff Hardy not win that match? And it was such a good match. And so many times you think Jeff's gonna win that match. He's got his hands on it, but Taker was just doing such good heel American Badass work at that time. I think he was Big Evil maybe at that point in time. Anyway, he was in that little biker gimmick, and it's just such an amazing match. And Jeff put on such a good show, and Taker just showed his ability as well in that ladder match as a big man. And overall, that's my favorite Taker match ever, and favorite Taker moment ever.
He gave him respect too after the ladder match was
exactly.
over. He's like, dude, good on you. And whether that was
like Jeff Hardy that night for sure.
Yeah, and whether and I think that's the great thing about Taker is like when he thinks highly of somebody, and when he like wants to put in the effort, he will make sure that like somebody looks great. I forgot. I go back to the documentary.
Make you famous. That was his thing.
When Orton debuted in 2002, right? And he had that random match with Taker, right? I remember Taker was saying that Vince was like, "Why are you selling for this guy?" He's like, "Because this kid's good. And, like this kid's going to be a star." So whether it was real or not, that's still pretty big. That's still pretty big. So I guess it's my turn for my number one. And my number one is really special to me. And I'm gonna go to the Raw after WrestleMania 35 last year, and I know I've said on this podcast, God knows how many times, like how be like Wolf like making sure get Wolf getting tickets and me getting there, the 17-year long dream, and as the WrestleMania was going on and whatnot, for me I'm like, hey, am I gonna see Taker tonight? And when the Elias moment was going on, I'm like, is this gonna be Taker, right? And obviously, Thugonomics Cena came out. Thugonomics Cena's come out. Obviously, Wolf behind me, never seen Thugonomics Cena. He's seen me rap.
I've seen him. I've just never seen him in person.
Right. I mean, neither did I at the time. So, when Cena came out, again, me and one other guy in a row in front of me were rapping the whole theme song because, that's how old we were. But, in my mind in that moment, I'm like, okay, well, it's not Undertaker. And then as the show went on and eventually concluded, okay, well, 17 years
come
waiting.
out at like 3 a.m.
17 years waiting for WrestleMania, and I don't get my WrestleMania Undertaker moment. And I'm like, hey, well, it is what it is. I'm so happy that I got there to WrestleMania. It was such a long wait. And the night after on Raw, you see Elias again, and you're like, okay, well, let's see what's gonna happen now, right? And Taker didn't cross my mind. I'm like, hey, if Taker didn't show up at WrestleMania, what would he be doing here on the weekend? And as soon as Elias said the next one to interrupt me is a dead man, that's when I started to, for some odd reason, panic in my seat. And there is a video of the moment on YouTube. If you click on the top right, I think I can link it, or in the description below, you'll go to the video of me recording the stage throughout the whole thing. And as soon as he says the next one interrupt me, he's a dead man, I freak out. I'm like, no, this can't be happening. And legitimately in my mind, I'm like, this is not happening, right? Like the moment that I didn't get last night is not going to happen now. And like Wolf said, as soon as that gong hits, you are in a different world. And I'm like, the dream that was a reality last night just became bigger than what it was. And I legitimately in my seat tearing up. I nearly fell in the seat in front of me. Like as soon as Taker came out, right? Because you hear the fans near the stage cheering. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not him. And then I knew it was him. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna wait for as soon as he comes out. And as soon as he comes out from his side, I nearly fall in the row in front of me. Someone on YouTube said I stepped on a set of bagpipes. There was such a weird squeal and scream that came out of me that moment. I'm just like, I don't care what I sound. I don't care what is happening. There is a 7-year-old boy happy that this is happening. And I was just like, I was emotional, and I feel emotional now, but oh my God, that was something. Now that he announced this, the way that the last ride ended, and you're like, well, that just really puts a bow on everything. So that to me was just, whew, that got me really good. And our buddy Alex, he was recording our faces the whole time, and I'm popping in and out of his video, so focused on he was so focused on getting his reaction. It was like, there's a legend walking up and does a tombstone and all that. So just awesome. And RJ, for the love of God, I really do hope there's with the little, I feel like with what little time we have left now of this guy, which sounds mortem, no pun intended with this guy. I do hope you find that moment. I'm like, oh, because it is an out of body experience, as weird as that sounds.
I love how surprised you got too, because you thought it was over. You're like, nah, he's not coming because he didn't come last night. Why would he show up on Raw? And then you got the surprise gong, and that probably gives you an even bigger chill. It's like, oh my God.
And it's funny because even Elias's cue, Elias said the cue, and you're like, oh yeah, no, this
can't be it.
Exactly, because so many people, there's so many people it could be so many of them. There's only one dead man. I'm like, this just cannot be real. This can't be real. And then, boom.
It could be Adam Cole's.
It was super clever how they did it.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been. It was cleverly well done. If it was Adam Cole, I think it would have maybe left Barclays that night. But
hey, there was a 7-year-old crying in the seat and a 10-year-old hiding a picture of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. It's funny because I think the one thing in the video we were saying later on in the video was I remember saying I feel bad because Wolf was supposed to be beside me that night, but a commitment came up and he gave his ticket away to Alex's friend, who was also never seen Taker for the first time. But I'm like, God, I wonder what Wolf would have reacted to that. And
I was actually watching it on my phone in the bus, and I'd seen him before at that point.
Yeah.
So at most he was kind of like, oh darn, that would have been cool. But I was kind of happy. I was more happy that you guys got to see him, and I was on my way home, so I didn't have too many thoughts. I was exhausted from that weekend.
Yeah, that was a big weekend.
Again, it was like I'd seen him twice before at that point, so I was just like, oh darn. Oh well.
Oh man, I was like just holding on to everything and anything. Oh man, what a moment. Anyways, there are our top 5 moments for everybody. I'll let you know what you guys. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments below if you guys thought anything. If you guys want to add on to what we said, or if there's anything that you wanted to add on yourself or your personal favorite taker moment, go right ahead. Please, somebody comment. Let's jump ship here just before we wrap up because we are fairly early. Not that we need to make up time, but you know it's a good pace. Let's talk about that big moment at the end of the last ride in the documentary part 5. It was his essentially his retirement at this point now at the time of this recording, which again are Tuesdays. Beat you to it, Wolf. He's because Wolf likes to say, "Oh, I don't think Jose likes it when I bring up the fact that we're taking."
I said that once. It's not.
Well, I beat you to it. And then and this time around, right? Like like he's now putting up on Twitter, on his Instagram, which still feels weird to say that the Undertaker has social media, but he's putting up, thank you, and it's a photo of him raising up, and any Taker entrance when his fist goes up before it's when he's about to exit the arena, and it's like, is this? Does it feel like this is it? So we're gonna do a roundtable. I'm gonna go last because I have so much to say on it. Wolf, will start with you. Your thoughts on what looks like now a retirement. Thoughts on the career, just any general thoughts about this whole thing that we're like the WWE fans have waited a long time for.
Well, I thought it was worded it didn't really feel worded very climactic, like I'm retired. It definitely left a little room there, which is why it didn't really hit necessarily as hard, but I guess it's kind of something like the whole series was building to either way. So it's not unsurprising that we're at this point. I'm just kind of the opinion I hope it sticks for his sake and for our sake, because we did get such a beautiful ending this time after we got a not so great ending at WrestleMania 33. I mean, that's when we all thought he was retired, and I guess, there weren't any words to say that he was retired then, and there are now, so I feel like if he goes back on it, it feels like there's some sort of other reason, like it definitely doesn't look good at Vince because it doesn't feel like this is something Taker would necessarily choose to do himself. So, as someone who watched every episode of The Last Ride or The Last Dance, Last Ride or Last Dance, which one are we talking about? Last Ride?
Ride. We're looking for Ride.
Right. Dance is the Michael Jordan one. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to point to your poster. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like if we go through this whole documentary and then he just ends up coming back, it cheapens it a little bit. I just feel like, okay, you have your ending. This is it. You should stick with it. So, for Undertaker, brought me a lot of great moments, and I'm happy that he has the closure that he had. I'm just hoping that they don't disturb it. Unless it's like Toy Story 4 when they find like a really, really good reason to do it and then just wrap a bow on it. But also, I wasn't the hugest fan of Toy Story 4. I mean, what was with Forky? He was a spork, but he was called Forky, whatever.
It's definitely the weaker of the 4. Yes.
Yes, but the point
Still
is...
emotional, but still weaker of the 4.
I'm hoping that this is the end for Taker. Just for his sake and for our sake, our emotions have been too much of a roller coaster. And
it's funny, you say like if he comes back, it ruins the moment a little bit. It doesn't ruin the moment a little bit. It ruins the moment a ton. You completely destroy it, I think. What?
I'm being liberal with my use.
Oh, liberal, okay.
Or, I don't know, conservative, whatever the nomenclature is. I'm trying to soften the blow a little bit.
Fair point. RJ, your thoughts on everything in his career, the retirement and all that, blah, blah, blah.
I thought it was the last song, so I'm off.
That's a Miley Cyrus movie.
So I mean, I'm
it's
way
not
off.
Texans, but so still. I think that's where she met Liam.
But yeah, I'm kind of with Wolf on this. Like, I'm going to. It is a little vague, but that's just kind of the way Taker's kind of done it. I've thought he's retired a few times for him to end up coming back. I do say with like 90% confidence that he's done. Because I think that, like Wolf just said, this is the way that they need to do it. He had that perfect Boneyard match, cinematic, like you mentioned earlier in the show, how in one of his favorite Taker moments, it was just so well done. He goes out on a high note. He looks amazing as well as he possibly could at his age.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, what is he going to come back in? Like, why does he need to keep coming back? Just to make more Saudi money? Like, that's just going to keep ruining his legacy like it already has a few times. He's come back and had a bad match. He's come back and had another bad match. He came back and had another bad match because he doesn't want to end on a bad match. He's finally had a perfect ending to his career. He doesn't need to keep coming back. And you could also tell during it how AJ felt honored to be in that match with Taker if that's his last match, and how they had such a good job. So I think that, and the way that it main evented the first night of WrestleMania, it was perfect. It was just a perfect ending for Taker. We don't need to keep bringing him back. If you want to bring back for appearances, that's a different thing. But he doesn't need to be getting in the ring anymore. So I hope that this is a solid final retirement. Maybe he'll come on Raw one day and formally retire, saying like the words "I retire" instead of like "if this is my last match." So it seems like that's the way that they're heading, and I hope that, like Wolf just said, they just kind of leave it alone and let him retire because it's perfect.
And I mean, like I said earlier, how many quote unquote false retirements or the wonder of retirements were we going to get? WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 31.
Washington Wizards in about 5 years.
I'm sorry?
He's always going to be a wizard.
In about 5 years.
I mean, like the WrestleMania 31 match with Bray. You're like, wait, is that it? Is he good? And then the big one, or Hell in a Cell, right? If he loses to Shane, his career is over. And
he did leave his gloves in the ring at the end of that too.
He did?
Yeah, he took off his gloves and left them in the middle of the ring.
I did not know that.
Roman one, like I thought the Roman one was up for sure. I thought that was
it. Yeah, I mean that
over.
was a bigger one. And again, like I remember, like all my friends were about to leave because it was past midnight, leaving my place. But then everybody had stayed and we're looking. We're like,
they're doing something here.
Is this it? Yeah, it's like there's so many moments where you're like, oh my goodness, and now it's finally here, and you couldn't ask for a better opponent, better final opponent. I mean, like imagine if his final opponent was like, I don't know, Jinder Mahal or something. It's got perfect Scott Hall. It would have been rough.
Could have been DX in Saudi Arabia.
Goodbye. It would have been rough, and I'm happy that this is. And like when you watch the last, I can't think of a joke. When you watch the last ride, right? I mean, like I tried to think of last something else. Last stand. Okay, last.
That's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
I know.
Not even one of the better ones.
When you're watching the last ride, and I
Last
think
of Us, the video game.
When you're watching the last ride, let's focus here. When you're watching the last ride, after episode 4, or maybe midway through 4, at the end of 3, that's when like people started saying, I started saying, and I go into the group chat, I think he's gonna call it. And it was like, yeah, most likely he will, maybe not. And I remember some people were like saying, like some people were like, oh no, he's probably just gonna do one more match. No, Nick, he's not. Damn it, Charlie.
Dang!
It's
his birthday today that this is coming out.
I thought it was right. Oh, right, on the time of his release.
Called him out on his birthday. Dang!
Happy birthday!
Cool, man.
But he was setting up a lot, and I got emotional. I was crying my eyes out in those final few minutes of the dog. I'm like, this is it. And I remember I actually got into like I don't know. I know you guys follow me on Instagram, and I follow WWE. I don't know if you guys saw. I know one friend might notice, but I was arguing with somebody in Instagram because there was one person that said, "Please don't retire." So I'm like, "Oh hell no! I am not down to have like the internet react." So I just say, if you were a true fan of the Undertaker, you would respect his decision and be happy with the fact that this is his time to step out and take care of himself and his family, and you only want him there for your entertainment. And to me, personally, that still stands. I mean, like, let him go. It's time. It's time to let him go. Whether it's overdue or not, we got the perfect storybook ending. It's time to say goodbye. And I think, at least for me, I am 100% at peace knowing that I got my memories. I in my WWE like fandom, I grew up with the guy. He's provided me so many moments where I wanted to hide under my bed, run in the closet, terrified to make him in a video game, appreciative of what he's done. Be in awe of his moments, being in awe and crying in person. I'm like, I can't think of a better way for him to say goodbye. And I'm like, I really hope this is it. And if this is it, I'm assuming that this is where he gets his Hall of Fame status now for next year. Again, assuming this is it, because he's going on so many of these breaking out of character interviews. Like, he's done with the character. It feels like he laid the character to rest himself. He's a guy who's protected his character for 30 years. He's like, it's time to break out the fun stuff. It's time to share what Yeah, it's time to make some money, but it's time to share the stories that a lot of people have been wanting to hear. And I hope that if this is it, I know some people were saying, for those of us that are going to LA, that if it is the case and that is the time where we will attend the Hall of Fame induction, I mean, it's still the Hall of Fame. it's still a interesting ceremony to say the least, but we'll see what happens in March. But for me personally, I do hope this is it. And all I can say is thank you for an incredible ride. So that is my thoughts without breaking down. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm good.
No, again, he's been around longer than I have. So, I mean, 30 years is older than me. So, I mean,
it's older than me.
An impressive damn career. And, he stayed good throughout the entire thing. So, I mean, hope he's done. The Boneyard match is a perfect ending.
Yeah.
Let's keep it that way.
So, again, thank you. And what a way to say goodbye. And with that, this is where we end the discussion. So thank you, gentlemen, for this very fun, interactive talk. This was definitely one of the more enjoyable talking Patron of the Month episodes for sure. Let's get to the closing. You made it to the end of the episode, and like I said at the end of the video, for me personally, I grew up with The Undertaker in all my years of watching WWE. 17 years of just crazy, some lows, some highs, crazy moments, that at the end of the day put a smile on my face because you knew, or at least I knew that I was watching a living legend. Of course, that's why I wore this Undertaker shirt that I somehow have for today's episode, and he really is a legend. And of course, I know I personally will miss him for sure if this is it, but I'm happy knowing that he could be happy with the decision to leave, and he's at peace, and he knows with his family. And to me, there's something more important when you know that you're at peace with something. So congratulations to The Undertaker or Mark Calloway on a fantastic 30-year career. And again, like with The Undertaker, I know it's always never seen ever, but assuming that this is it, I cannot wait to see the culmination of that in what I assume will be the Hall of Fame in March. So congrats to you. And in saying that, for next week, we're going to be back with the usual, another fun topic that we're going to pick amongst us and discuss, because I realize, we whether it was predictions or getting suggestions of one, we haven't really had the time to step back and, see what's going on in the world of wrestling, see what's trending. So look out next week for that as we continue to divulge a little bit into, some other news or some other thoughts and topics that we want to discuss with you guys. So in saying that is that. Thank you so much for watching. Become a patron so you can submit topics in July. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe, all that jazz. We will see you guys next week. I'm Jose Tawada. Have a good one. Bye.